So who are the difficult people in your life? I bet you that was easy. Probably listing them in your head right now. You could give me an age and I could tell you who the difficult people in my life were at that age. That's how easy it is. That's the impression or the impact difficult people have on our lives. And you go back and you think about the list, and they're difficult for different reasons. Some people, they're difficult because there's too many words. Some not enough. Some people are difficult because they care too much, and others because they don't care enough or at all. Others are difficult because they're too fake. Some are difficult because they're too real. The bottom line is that they have a profound and challenging impact on our lives, every aspect of our lives. Physically, they keep us up at night, increase our blood pressure, make us sick. Emotionally, consume our thought life. They crush our spirits. Every way, shape, or form we move, difficult people can have a negative impact on our lives. And what I want to do is I want to take some time and look at high maintenance, difficult relationships. There's a book in my library by Dr. Les Parrott called High Maintenance Relationships. And this is a book that as friends come over and they look at my library, my bookshelf, this is the one they always pull out. They always seem to, for years, have pulled this book out and says, oh, this book looks good. So we're going to lean on this book for the next couple of sessions and talk about high maintenance relationships. And in leaning on Dr. Parrott's surveying and experience and research, he lists in his book the top 5 high maintenance relationships that people encounter. And just for the sake of trivia, he says that number 1 is the critic. Number 2, he says, is the martyr. Number 3, he says, is the wet blanket. Number 4 is the steamroller. Interesting. Number 5 is the gossip. So we'll look at these and others in the next couple of weeks as we explore how to deal with high maintenance relationships. But before we break into the critic, which is where we're going to start today, let me just give 3 underlying principles that will be applicable for every personality we look at. 3 things we need to remember going into this study. Number 1, this is not about changing people. Okay. Number 1, you can't change people. Number 2, if you could change people, everybody in the world would end up acting like you, which you really don't want. So going forward, this is not about how to change the critic and get them to start acting the way you want. Okay. We need to know that. Number 2, if it's about changing anything or anybody, it's about changing you, me, and giving us the tools to deal with or maybe even leverage into making a negative a positive in dealing with difficult people, helping to cope, helping to manage, or even helping to hunt for the good stuff to find how a difficult person can actually benefit us and we can get something positive out of it. So if number 1, it's not about changing people, and maybe 2, it's really a tool for you. The third part is we're all called to do our very best, and it's going to take effort, and it's going to take a lot of work, because difficult, high maintenance relationships are hard by the very nature, can be painful, very painful, because humans are very, very complex creatures. Okay, I think the Apostle Paul sums it all up in this one verse in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 18. He says this: if it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So there's a couple of things we want to mention there. Number 1, the goal is to live at peace with everyone. I think it's a reasonable goal we all can agree with. But Paul gives 2 caveats to that. Number 1, he says, if it's possible, which means there's stuff out there that we cannot control. Okay. The second thing he says is that as much as it depends on you, which Paul seems to say that then if there's stuff we can't control, this part is the stuff we can control. So we want to focus on the stuff that we can control, which is our reaction and our response to difficult people. So we need to remember these 3 principles going forward. Okay. Now let's look at the critic. The critic is that nitpicking, second-guessing, opinion on everything person. The critic is somebody who can find the cloud in the silver lining, if you will. So I want to look at the top 5 qualities that we see in a critic right now. What do they present? They present, number 1, someone who is perfectionistic. They see flaws, large or small, in everything. They got a special kind of radar, spider sense, to see what is wrong in something. Number 2, critics are verbal. In other words, they just don't see what's wrong. They're compelled to articulate and share with you what they think is wrong. Okay? Number 3, they are teachy. They love to share knowledge. They love to express their opinion and share information to help you or something better. So they sometimes come across as know-it-alls. You're not going to get a lot of feeling conversation with a critic because they're so compelled to share knowledge and to exchange information, and most of that exchange is them giving and you receiving, but we all know that. Number 4 is that critics tend to be judgmental. They know the right way, and if you don't take the right way, which happens to be, oh, by the way, their way, then there's something wrong with you. Okay, and that's where the judgmental side comes in. Number 5 is that they're driven. And sure, a critic is going to be hard on themselves as well, but sometimes critics take that as an excuse or an opportunity to be hard on others, because they say, well, I'm hard on myself as well. I can be hard on that person too. So that's kind of the upfront, what we see in a critic. Now I want to look at, kind of go under the hood, and 5 ways we can understand critics. Okay, so this is a little different. The first part is what we see up front. Now let's kind of go beneath the mask, or kind of under the hood, I call it. Understanding critics. Number 1, critics truly believe that they are helping others, that they are making someone or something better. Number 2, they believe that it is their duty to find stuff that's wrong. That's kind of like how God wired them. And if something comes up and if they can't find anything wrong, they think they failed. It's almost like this little kind of self-competition, that if they can't find something wrong, they lose. Number 3, critics take pride in telling it like it is, letting it all hang out. Being, transparent, no filter. Hey, I'm just telling it like it is. I'm a tell it like it is kind of guy. Okay, that leads us to number 4, is that they're generally unaware of their impact on people. Okay, if there's task-oriented people and the spectrum all goes to the other side of people-oriented people, critics tend to be way on this task-oriented side, kind of heavy on that. So there's this level of unawareness of the impact that they're having on people, or maybe they are aware but they don't care. So, but either way, there's this indifference to the impact that they're having on people. Okay, which often makes them hard to deal with. Number 5 in understanding critics is that there is a spectrum of critical behavior. There are some people who are just genuinely trying to help, but then there are some people who are just a darn chainsaw that are just burning through whatever's in front of them. So those are the 5 ways to kind of deeper understand what's going on in a critic's mind, psyche, or heart. Now, 5 ways in which me and you can cope or deal with or maybe even utilize a critic to our advantage. Okay, number 1, maintain composure. Okay, identify the emotion that you're feeling. What are you feeling when a critic is in critic mode? Anger, frustration, despair, helplessness, claustrophobia? Breathe. Remember to breathe and remain calm. That's the first thing. Okay, that'll help you stay in control. Number 2 is don't close your eyes. I'm not going to hear this, I'm not going to hear this, I'm not going to hear this. You know what? The fact of the matter is sometimes, maybe even oftentimes, critics are right and have valuable information to share. But if we just get into stonewall, close our eyes mode, we might miss out on something that might help us to move forward. Number 3, and this is a good one, is accept the negative, accept the criticism, but also, request positive from the critic as well. Kind of say something like, hey, I appreciate your input in helping me make this better. Do you see anything that is right? Do you see any sustains there? I appreciate your analysis. Can you broaden your analysis to include something positive? And my guess, a critic is going to love that because they love giving their analysis. They love sharing their opinion. So you're just asking them to broaden their analysis. So accept the negative, but also request the positive. Number 4, clarify the goal in your mind. In other words, you're not doing what you're doing for the critic. You can't please the critic. You're doing this for you, or for the organization, or for the army, or for your family, for your kids or your spouse, whatever. But keep that goal in mind. A lot of times a critic will get us, off track, and we're trying to just please them. No, keep your eyes on your prize and what you've identified as what's important. And number 5, maintain boundaries. Don't accept an insult. Don't demand respect. Okay, so if it leaks over into something personal, that's where you can say, hey, I need to end this. It's no longer about the issue here. Now you're attacking me, and I don't want to stand for that. So those are the 5 things that you can do to kind of leverage a critic to maybe help you or help the organization maintain composure. Don't close your eyes. Accept the negative, but request the positive. Clarify the goal in your mind. And demand respect. Don't tolerate insults. Maintain boundaries. It really will always, and every one of these will always go back to Romans chapter 12, verse 18, which I leave you with. If it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So do that today. Walk in peace and have the best day possible.